Good people, what's up? What's good? It's your boy Caleb Smith, host of the Milli podcast. First off, I just want to say thank you for tuning in and taking time out of your day to watch our content. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And right now, you are tuned in to the Millennial Masterclass series. This is specifically for you, the Millennials. This guest that we have on today's edition is a very special guest to me, one of my favorite guests that I've ever interviewed, Mr. 60 Seconds Ain't Enough, our man, Justin Blu. Today, we get into all the things about Africa's history, his mindset, train energy, how to be an entrepreneur, how to stay focused, and also how to be you and be proud to be you. You guys, this is a very, very special treat. Make sure to tune in, continue to like, comment, and subscribe. Keep supporting, and we cannot say thank you enough. We love y'all. Milli podcast. Good people, what's up? What's good? It's your boy Caleb Smith, man. Today, I had the honor of interviewing Mr. Justin Blu. He's a living legend, man. He speaks for our generation, the Millennials. Pretty much, we're just going to get started and talk about his mindset, his thoughts towards activism, his thoughts towards the community, the coronavirus, so all those things going on. I know that Justin, he'll be able to provide his insight, his thoughts, and also, his concerns. We'll be talking about train energy. That's a big thing and a big movement that he has going on with having a positive mindset. I appreciate it, man. But yeah, man, so it's just really learning Justin's mindset, pouring into that, learning from each other. So the purpose of this Millennial Masterclass is to learn from each other. So again, y'all, my name is Caleb Smith, host of the Milli podcast. And today we'll be going live with our man, Justin Blu. So stay tuned. This is going to be super, super exciting. Justin's right here. We're about to join. Make sure to share this as well with all your friends. Justin, what's up with you, kid?
What's going on? What's going on, kid?
Nothing much, man. Nothing much, bro. Thank you so much, man, for just
glad to be on, man. Glad to be on.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Starting off, man, right now, what do you have currently that's going on? What projects are you working on right now?
So the biggest thing I've been working on is the SOS Speak to Our Sons mentorship series.
Okay.
And so I've been working on these audio recordings every single day, and it's a whole bunch of different audio lessons that it's going to comprise of. And there's a lot of different important areas that's just necessary for navigating manhood. And a lot of times we don't have anybody to walk us through it. We don't have anybody to really sit down and put us on game, especially sometimes coming from a single parent household. Somebody might not have the father in the household. You might not have older brothers that got the guidance that they can give you. So that's what I'm putting inside all of the lessons and touching on important areas. Like we're talking about HIV, STDs, protecting yourself. How to deal with breakups and ending relationships. It's something we don't get. How to deal with encounters with the police. How to make it back home safe. There's another one called The Trap is a Trap. And it just talks about how the dope game is a trap and how the average dope boy actually makes less than minimum wage when you add up all the hours. And it's just so many different lessons inside of it. And yeah, man, I feel like it's one of those things where, all of us should leave something here on this planet that leaves a legacy behind. And I think that so many of us are afraid to leave or so afraid of death because we have this fear that if we go, then we'll never be remembered. And so, but you can be remembered, you can live forever if you find a way to duplicate your energy or to spread it in a large form. So for me, even in the midst of doing this work, like not saying I'm gonna leave anytime soon. I plan on being here a long time. Though, I know that like once this is put out, this is something that 100 years from now, it's my legacy is still set. The information and energy that I wanted to put out is still there, and so it's just a beautiful thing. And yeah, we're gonna be pushing out for the rest of 2020, and like going forward, we're gonna continue to build. But that's what it is right now.
I love that, man. And something that you actually hit on was talking about death. I think sometimes with our age group that we focus a little bit on the dying side, but
Mm-hmm.
how important do you think it is for us to focus on that legacy aspect? Because I think that, we got to find that like happy medium somewhere.
Yeah, okay. Nipsey Hussle, he has a line where he says, "I'll probably die up in these streets, but I'll survive through my name."
Mm,
And so, like, Nipsey Hussle, he wasn't afraid of death because he already knew what he put out. He
that's
knew
real.
he knew his body of work. He knew that he already found a way for his energy to live long past his heartbeat. And I think that's for so many of us, we don't want to be forgotten, and
Mm-hmm.
so many of us, we feel like yeah, we don't want to be forgotten. We feel like once we're gone, we're gone. But really, it's like you can really extend yourself. You can duplicate yourself. You can like this podcast, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a form of you duplicating your energy, finding
That's
a way
real.
where I'm saying whatever day you're gone, what you're trying to put out, what you stand for,
Mm-hmm.
it's still going to be there because you found a way to capture that. And I think so many people aren't capturing their energy, and that's what makes the fear of leaving. As I said, don't get me wrong. I plan on being here a long time. I'm not trying to
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
I'm not trying to go anytime soon. But what I've realized is like the more content I put out, the more of myself that I put out, the more of my thoughts I put out, the more of the way that I want to impact the world is put out. It's like that fear of leaving, it kind of subsides more and more and more because I know that like whether I'm here physically or I'm not here physically, like what I'm putting out is it's gonna roll with or without it. So yeah.
I love that, man. I love that. Reza Islam, he just did a great interview actually on Drink Champs, and I saw something that he said about when you speak the truth, that aspect of fear like escapes you. Have you ever felt like, man, like I'm speaking, too many facts, and I gotta like watch my back somewhat?
No, I mean, I haven't really, and I mean, I think it's more so just me being naive, honestly.
Mm,
And when I
okay.
say me being naive, not that I don't know history, not that I don't know how things play out, but um, naive in the sense of like just doing things, putting things out, and then not even thinking about what possibly could be the repercussions
Okay.
of it. So that's why I say naive in that sense of just like maybe dropping something heavy and then I don't know. I'll drop something heavy and then I'll go to work watching twerk videos like I never just said something that could possibly have them on my line. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying in the sense of naive in that sense. But yeah, I mean, it's not something I really think about. Though I will say over the last year and a half,
Mm-hmm.
I've learned to move a lot smarter. And
Okay.
one of the biggest mistakes I think people are making and is and one of the Black Panthers put it in perspective. I don't remember which one it was,
Mm-hmm.
but they asked them about war tactics. They asked the Black Panther about war tactics, and he responded. He said, um, he said, to do what I want to do, I cannot say what I want to say, and to say what I want to say, I cannot do what I want to do. And so that really that sticks with me because there's
Mm-hmm.
so many people that are saying every single thing they want to do. They're saying all their plans, especially when it comes to like I guess consciousness and pro-blackness. You
Yeah.
got so many people, especially online, social media, saying every single thing that
That's real.
they want to do, and to the people when it comes to what type of props they get, everybody's like, oh, okay, this is the most pro-black, this the most activist, this the one right here. Like they're
Yeah.
hyped up, but a person puts themselves a lot of times in a position where they can't actually do the stuff that they want to do because they've basically like decapitated themselves from so many different resources that they might have been able to finesse.
Mm,
Or there's people that want to rock with you, but they can't rock with you on a public level because then it takes the food off of their plate. So
real.
um, folks all folks always think folks only think about who is supporting them, but they don't think about who supports the person who's supporting them. So me, for example, I want to talk to like talking to Black children, talking to Black boys specifically, being
Mm-hmm.
able to have access to them so that I can get my messages to them. That's something that's important to me. So if I get caught up in talking about interracial dating to the point where I'm trying to go to the school system And then the principal's like, hell no, I ain't letting him come in here. You must be crazy.
Yep.
The teacher, she might be all on board for everything I stand for. She might love my message to death, but she might have a white gatekeeper. And then so for me, part of my job is to position myself so that I can allow the people who want to add to everything that I'm doing to actually do so. And I think that so many times in the midst of trying to be so boisterous about everything, that you actually limit people's ability to support you, the ones that actually want to support you. So that's just something that I've kind of evolved to move more politically over the last year and a half.
I like that, man. I like that because, I think even like in the past movements with the civil rights movement, they had actors and comedians such as Dick Gregory, Harry Belafonte that was funding those movements. But then those same people, they can say, well, they aren't vocal enough. But then behind closed doors, they're putting money inside of people's pockets.
Right.
So what do you think about us just understanding that? Because I think sometimes we're quick to call our celebrities coons, but not know that behind closed doors that they're, setting up the bail money, that they're funding all these movements. So how do you feel about that?
You only know what you know. So
yeah,
I can't, like, you only know what you know in that sense. And I think it's good to be able to answer that question, because it's a tricky question. But
yeah,
the main thing I'll say is it's not always about what you do in front of a camera. It's not always about how loud you are. And that's one of the biggest problems that we've made a mistake of, is thinking that just being loud is the way to get everything done. Like this last summer, I spoke to, there was this nice hotel, nice ballroom, luxurious place, and they brought in a whole bunch of inner city youth that never would probably be in a place like that outside of that scenario. And so like probably 300 or 400 of them. And the guy who organized it, he's this black man. And so I'm sitting in the back in the speakers area, and he's talking to another black man. I'm just eating my food before it's time for me to speak. But I hear him say to the other black man, he's talking kind of low. He says, yeah, these white folks pay for everything. I got them to pay for everything. He said, I never got my 40 acres and a mule, but I got it today. And so, so when he's filing for the grants or he's filing for the sponsorships, he's professional. He ain't walking there with his fist up. He ain't got his dreadlocks. He ain't got, he go put on a suit and tie, go in there and sit down and talk the language just like the rest of them.
Yeah.
But he secured the bag and come back and he's like, yeah, I got him. You can't always do that depending on how you moving. And so everybody has different roles, but everybody got a different role. That's just the thing. Everybody has a different role in it. So yeah.
Hey, that's real, bro. Overall, Justin, how do you find balance? Because I know that it could be like a heavy burden when you're speaking facts all the time, and all of us, including myself, man, we look up to you, like, for real. So like, how do you find balance? Yeah. So how do you find balance overall?
So the thing is, a lot of times you can feel the need to conform, or you can feel the need to be put into certain boxes. And originally I feel like I fell into that category of feeling like I needed to meet the boxes that folks are trying to put me in. And then of course you have so many people that were leaders or considered themselves to be leaders or had certain levels of influence in the past, and we get so used to seeing how they moved, seeing like what type of people they were, seeing how they interacted, and so we think that like that's the only blueprint for how a person can be if they care about their community. And so I felt like for a while I kind of fell into that too, so much so to the point where you feel like you got to always just be in one mode all the time. And but that's just not the reality of who we are as far as human beings and our complexity. Like I just said earlier, I said, like, I can go and talk about some activist stuff, and I can go empower the community, but then I can hop back on Instagram and I can watch twerk videos for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's there's a lot of duality in it. And what I realized is folks will try to put you on this pedestal just so they can knock you down. The thing about a pedestal is this: when you're on a pedestal, you're not allowed to move. As soon as you take a step, you fall, because it's an unrealistic expectation. So I just had to really get to the place for myself when we talk about balance is, for lack of better words, just fuck it. You got to be you. That's just, at the end of the day, that's just what it is. You have to be you. I did the real world, and one day my mom called me, and she was talking about some guy she knows at work, and she was like, yeah, he loves everything you do, but and he likes the way that you've been handling yourself on the show, but she was like, but he said, you're supposed to be our Malcolm X, and he said he was kind of disappointed because Malcolm X wouldn't do that. And so I'm sitting on the phone like, But then I got off the phone, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not Malcolm X.
That's real.
I'm not Malcolm X.
That's real.
So, and it was just like, I already knew that, of course, but it was just like the light bulb. Like, that's not my job to be somebody else that you may have admired, looked up to. My job is just to be myself. And I guess that's where I would say the balance is. It's just that understanding that my job is just to be myself. And another thing that's kind of different from myself that I realized as far as like how I move with things, a lot of the movements and a lot of just community work has been very based or has coincided with religious movements at the same time.
That's true.
So for a long time, like Black church has been very influential when it comes to just different movements. And so if you look at the civil rights era and all that, the church was very heavily involved. Nation of Islam, even though they don't consider themselves to be a religion, as far as organized teaching, that they've been that's been at the forefront of a lot of political activity. That's so true. In the midst of those organized teachings being intertwined with activism or politics, there's also the morality associated with those teachings that's intertwined with it as well. So, so basically, there does come that aspect of possibly having to be extra righteous in the midst of however you go about your leadership or whatever. So, like I'm able to tell you, and it's like my 5th time saying Troy videos, but I'm able to tell you.
Hey, it's all good. Hey,
number one, but I just want to get this point across.
Yeah.
All right. Here's a prime example. Okay. All right. You got people on fans only right now, right? Mm-hmm. Big huge thing. It's really I guess it's like a transition with just technology and how folks are moving and things. So you got fans only. I'm not somebody who's going to promote people having fans only account or like sex work or anything of that nature. Though since I'm not associated with I guess organized teachings, I'm able to embrace those people a lot more. Because if I was coming from a heavily religious perspective, it makes it harder for me to communicate with those people that are on there. That's and just not have any judgment towards them. Because there's a lot of stuff that, like, many of them are very influential. Yep. Many of them bring a lot to the table. And since the way society is set up, a lot of times they are socially at the bottom as far as the treatment. Because you got white people looking down on black people. You got the argument that black men look down on black women, but you got argument that the black community looks down on the LGBTQ black people. Mm-hmm. But one group of people that are looked down on everybody, oftentimes are the women that fall into like sex work categories, or like the half-naked Instagram models. But the thing is, they got 300,000 followers, 400,000 followers.
Hey, that's powerful.
Hella views every single time. Imagine if they set up a rally. Imagine if they set up a protest. Imagine if we needed to raise some funds for something. If we thought outside the box to be able to actually raise the funds, because they're making money, they have access and influence, but we get so caught up in the traditional ways of how you're supposed to go about your activism, or you get so caught up in trying to police their morality that you don't even see the goal as far as how influential they can be. And so that's something that I had to realize in myself, is that I'm not coming from an organized teaching perspective or organized religion perspective. So I don't have to operate in those ways the same way that people may have felt the need to operate in the past. I can just go ahead and I can be myself, say what I got to say, get involved in what I got to get involved in. But at the same time, if I wanted to go to a club and smoke a blunt and just call it a night, I
You still
could.
can. Yeah.
Right. And so that was probably one of the biggest realizations that I had to have for myself. Is just like I'm not tied to these boundaries. Only way you get tied to a boundary is if you allow yourself to be tied to a boundary. Like I know you got more questions, but I'm kind of on the rant.
No, hey, bro,
Yeah,
keep
okay, I
going.
got you.
Hey, I'm
Yeah,
listening.
so only way you get tied to a boundary is if you allow yourself to get tied to a boundary. For example, and I'm just touching this real quick. So you had Umar Johnson.
Hey, take
right?
your time, bro.
Hey, you had Dr. Umar Johnson, who I respect a lot. I feel like with any human being, there's gonna be things that you like. There's gonna be things that you don't like. That's just human nature. But generally speaking, I feel like he has a lot of information, a lot of insight, a lot of education that we really need, and things that should be paid attention to. Though some years back, there was a situation where I think it came out that either he slept with a stripper.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
So it turns to this whole scandal of like how he slept with a stripper, and then it's like there's a whole bunch of back and forth, all those things. It just blew up, and folks are just talking about it. It's talking to town, right? Only reason that was a big deal is because it was allowed to be a big deal. If that information would have came out that he ended up sleeping with a stripper, and he was like, yeah, hey, things happen, it was blah blah blah. Life goes on. Mm-hmm. Nobody can hold that against you. Every man understands that. Every man can understand how easily it could possibly be to maybe sleep with a stripper.
He was single too.
Yeah, like I'm saying.
Yeah,
so there was the only way you can be shamed about a situation is if you basically don't move unapologetically. And so you allow people to put you into a corner when you don't move unapologetically. So yeah, moving unapologetically is that's really just something that I had to kind of evolve into, because when you don't move unapologetically, what'll happen is you will find yourself living a life that isn't you, and you'll find yourself trying to conform to what other people's expectations of you are. But when you move in a like fuck it, I'm me attitude, there's nothing that anybody can hold against you, because you just said fuck it, I'm me. That's it. So yeah.
I love that, man. I love that. And what you spoke about with the women with the OnlyFans pages, that was genius. What do you think that we could start doing with not only those women, but just black women and black men? How can we repair those relationships as a whole? How can we fix that?
It's rough, but I think one of the biggest things as far as repairing the relationships between black men and black women is getting folks to understand who is actually at the root of your problems. And so, for example, okay, if I kidnap you and I kidnap one of your homeboys, right? Mm-hmm. And I throw y'all in a cage and I don't give y'all anything but water for 4 days. I don't give y'all nothing but water for 4 days. Y'all in the cage, nothing but water for 4 days. And I come back on the 5th day and I hand you a piece of steak, right? And so you go to eat your steak, but your homeboy, he hit you upside the head for it. Now y'all in there fighting, right? Your homeboy took it, he ate the whole thing. So you look up off the floor and you're like, wow, man, how could he do something like that? Like, this is my oppressor. Not even thinking about the fact that I'm the one who put you in the cage. Mm. So now you mad at your homeboy. Yeah. All your hatred, all your negative energy.
He's just trying to survive.
He's just trying to survive. He's in the exact same cage as you are. Mm-hmm. And so that's a situation that pretty much exists in the black community. Is we're put in the same negative situation. We're all trying to survive the same thing, but we've been tricked into thinking that each other are oppressors. So like I got a homegirl, and she doesn't identify as a feminist, but she is more so on that side of somebody said, you lost how this correlates. I'll tell you how it correlates. Okay. So basically you trick people into thinking that they're each other's problems. Whole time you can be the root of their problem. But while they're fighting with each other, you're still over there handling business. Yeah. Because they're distracted. So man, I lost my train of thought temporarily. Where was I?
Are you good?
I'm trying to get back to where I was going. Help me out. Last thing I
Yeah,
said.
I'm trying to think because I read that comment too before she got there. You got to
Help
the
me out.
state, and then I think after that it was just like
Okay, here we
focusing
go.
on
Here we
how
go.
like
Here
we
we
aren't
go.
focused.
Here we go. All right. So here's the trick. One common thing that said is
Homegirl who's a feminist. Somebody was writing the comment.
Okay,
That's where you
okay,
were.
yeah. So one of my homegirls, she's not necessarily a feminist, but a lot of her ideologies kind of align. And so we're having a conversation, and we're talking about something, complaining about something. And she says, "Well, you know, y'all men created these systems, right?"
Mm.
So when you say y'all men created these systems, it's very important that you qualify that statement. What men created the systems? What men? And so, but when we stop the sentence at men created men created these systems, or y'all men created these systems, and then it's confusing because it doesn't actually get to the root of specifically what men created the systems. Because when you talk about the Constitution, black men were in slavery when the Constitution was made.
Yeah.
We not even to mention that we were raped during slavery just like everybody else. Lot of we were raped by men during slavery, but we were also raped by white women during slavery.
Yep.
You know, there's a lot of brothers that might have got them some during slavery, but you can't consent to sex at all if you're owned by somebody. You're just trying to save your life. Like, imagine if you're working inside the house and the master's wife wants some, you can't say no. That might be your head. That's you getting raped too. Yep. Then you know, talk about coming out of slavery. You have mass incarceration, having so many other things throughout history, along with unemployment, along with to this day having a harder time getting jobs than our own black women. And it's not to get into the oppression Olympics, but just to simply point out that when we say that men created these systems, it wasn't us. We're trying to make it like everybody else. So it's very problematic when we talk about I guess oppression towards black women and oppression towards black men, but we speak about it as if either one of us had a seat at the table on the structure that's been put together. Mm-hmm. You know, it's crazy for us to say that, like, to even allude to. It's crazy for us to even allude to black men creating these systems when we're the ones who are suffering the most in mass incarceration. If we created a system that was for our benefit, then we wouldn't be the ones that are in bulk locked up in chains. So much so to the point where in some neighborhoods it's hard to find us. So it's so that stuff has to be pointed out. But also on the other side of it, you know, black women, I got y'all as well. Like, you know, it's a lot of brothers that look down on black women as well. You know what I'm saying? So that's not any more righteous than the other way. It's both of us having to understand that, like, we've been put into a predicament where we're intentionally, it's been structured for us to fight amongst each other so that we don't actually ever pay attention to what's going on. And that's what the system's been based upon in the first place. So, like, if you look up Bacon's Rebellion in Jamestown, Virginia, where it was a multiracial rebellion against the elites of America. And after that rebellion, which was almost successful, that's when the wealthy decided, okay, we're going to come up with a system where we reward people who are white, and that's going to help maintain the people who are black. It wasn't that all the white people became wealthy after that. It's just that the wealthy understood that, okay, as long as we give the poor white people some incentives, then they're going to fight back and forth with the black people long enough for us to keep making this money and maintain this power. And the same thing occurs inside the black community. It's like, as long as we can get the black man and the black women to fight amongst each other, then we can keep making this money and maintain this power. So that's all what it is.
That's right, man. Hey, everybody that's listening, he's dropping historical facts. Look that up. He's dropping facts. Justin, one of the things, too, that people don't even realize is that between that same sentiment of the black man and the black woman not being on the same page, thus the black children suffer the most from that, which leads to prison incarceration, school to prison pipeline. But how do we stop that curse of our children going to prison so much? How do we stop that?
It's a trick question, man. And I say a trick question in the sense of a lot of times we ask those questions with the assumption that there was something done wrong by the child.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of us that's being thrown away into these jail cells when we did absolutely nothing wrong. And so that's why I say it's a trick question, because you can be the best parent. You can, of course, you want to, if you have a son, you want to try to surround him around mentors. If there's not a father in the household, you want to have positive people around, and you want to be active in your child's education. So many parents aren't active in their child's education. That's extremely important. Or so many parents are sending their children to school and not teaching them anything at home, and expecting for these school systems to teach them every single thing that they need to know. A lot of times the teacher couldn't teach them everything they wanted to know, or that they feel like the student needs to know, even if they wanted to, because the teacher's trying to keep their job. The teacher is trying to make sure that the students pass standardized testing. So a lot of times, even if there was, I guess, the most pro-black teacher in a public school, a lot of times they still would have to abide by a bulk of the curriculum in order to make sure they keep their jobs and make sure that the students pass whatever test they need to pass, whether or not they actually agree with what it is. So that stuff is important. But also there is that element of, a lot of times our communities are extremely over-policed. A lot of times our communities are extremely over-policed, and a lot of us are getting arrested without doing anything wrong, that's another problematic element about the way we look at things as a community is this. We can all agree that the legal system is corrupt, and we can all agree that the legal system has victimized us in many ways. But for some reason, whenever someone is victimized by the system, we still ask the question of, well, what did you do? You must have been doing something wrong.
You had to do something, or she had to do something.
Right. And if we apply that same philosophy or way of handling things to any other form of victims, it's politically incorrect. But somehow when it comes to us being victimized by law enforcement, then it all automatically becomes socially, politically correct to question or blame the victim. And so, like, when it comes to sexual assault, it's not politically correct to say, well, okay, you were taken advantage of, so you must have been doing something. And the person's like, no, I got taken advantage of. This wasn't right. So it's not socially, politically correct to say that. But when somebody deals with police brutality, or they get arrested for something that they didn't do anything wrong for, it was like, all right, well, yeah, I get they shouldn't have thrown you on the ground like that, brother. But what did you do? So. Yeah. But at the same time, we can all agree that the system is corrupt, and they're out, like, they've been taking advantage of us for generations. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, you raise your kids the best way you can. You be active in your community most you can. I wish I could say there's a 110% way to ensure that your child will never get in handcuffs. I would love to say that, but I can't even give that statement for myself.
Yeah.
So that's my answer.
Hey, that's right, bro. And I think even in that statement that you made, you kind of like highlighted a little bit on how we as a community sometimes feel like we're guilty until proven innocent. How do we start unlearning all that trauma? Like, what books can you suggest, documentaries, films, or just overall strategies?
Well, I would more so, I think the way we can start overcoming that is for us to remove our naiveness towards white society. And so, I'm not one of those folks that say, like, all white people are the devil,
right?
Or anything of that nature. I'm not that guy. But we've been taught to have an inferiority complex. And so, I mean, a lot of folks don't want to talk about it, but a lot of folks that look like me, when they go to sleep, or right before they go to sleep at night, they pray to somebody that's a white man. And people don't want to talk about that, but it's impossible not to view yourself as inferior if your God doesn't look like you. That's why you look around everywhere in the entire world, people who created their own religions, or people who practice that having gone through enslavement, they worship gods that look like them. Because if you think about what the creator is, that's where you spring from. So you want to be as close of a resemblance to your creator as possible. So when what you feel like is your creator is something that doesn't even look like you, then it's like you're already a stepchild.
That's deep. That's deep.
So we're dealing with that aspect of it, along with the education system. And a lot of times they're not teaching us Black history. They're not teaching us anything about ourselves. So when they're giving us the history from a perspective that puts them in a positive light all the time. It puts them in a victorious light all the time. So for us, in our subconscious mind, even though we see crazy stuff all the time, in our subconscious mind, we still give this pass on, like, they wouldn't do that. They would never do that.
Yep.
You say you know about slavery. They would, but you hear something new on the news, it's like, yeah, they're gonna do some crazy stuff, but that's out of hand. I mean,
it could be that bad.
I don't think they would get, so that's what it is. We really need to get rid of the naiveness around just how white society has been operating and how they operate currently. Because when you have that naiveness along with that inferiority complex, it's very hard for you to even grasp the fact that these people who you mentally see as being superior are in the wrong or taking advantage of you, even when you see it with your own eyes. And that's why a lot of times you'll see a crazy video and then there's still the question of, yeah, but what did they do? Because these superior beings would never do that in the subconscious mind. So it's really about getting an understanding of who we are, how great we are. The biggest thing I recommend is just going back and digging back in history, learning history as much as possible, because you got to understand, okay, right now what year are we in?
2020.
All right. So we're in 2020, but the world, I think they said the world is like, I think like 3 billion years old. I think they said the world is like 3 billion years old.
3 to 6 billion years old.
Okay. So the world is 3 to 6 billion years old. But somehow we're in 2020. Okay. Why are we in 2020? Because white people only document when they started winning. Yeah,
that's real.
That's it.
So we're talking about 2,000 years.
So we're essentially talking about a span of 2,000 years.
That's a blink
where they've relatively been in a position of power. And when specifically when the position of power came about, that's even debatable. You could say it's been less time than that. But the thing is, we've been around millions of years before their existence. You know what I'm saying? To this day, we still don't know where they came from.
That's right.
Like, literally. I'm not no jokes. The whole concept of Caucasian, that's just something that was made up in order to, it was a pseudoscience that they made up in order to try to justify certain rights that they wanted to give to white people. And that's where that came from, because archaeologists, and I forget their name, but the person's name, but what they found was there were these big skulls, and their assumption was that since there were these big skulls, that these were the smarter beings. But also in that same land, there were like smaller skulls that were for black people. And of course, as you know, like the smaller skulls are actually like more so the skulls that we have today. That's a big skull doesn't mean that you're more intelligent, but just trying to put together a pseudoscience so badly to try to justify like a superiority complex. Yeah. That's where the whole concept of just being a Caucasian came from. That's not even, like, it's not even real. It's just, they just made it up. But yeah, their history is very new. Our history runs so long. There's even the concept of prehistory. Like, our history runs so long, it falls into prehistory before there was even documented history. And there's so much stuff that we've accomplished that they still haven't figured out today. Can't even grasp. And so black folks haven't even figured out that we broke the codes to this universe a long time ago. We really broke the codes to the universe a long, long time ago. We're just starting to tap into meditation again. We're just starting to really think about energy again. We're just starting to get back to our diet again. We're just starting to get back to getting back to working with different medicines and working off the earth. That's not nothing new. that's really what the root of what you were. Is we already
in our DNA.
Yeah, we already had this stuff figured out. There's so much
Yeah.
stuff we had figured out. For example, the pyramids being in like perfect alignment with
the sun and the moon, the stars.
Right, perfect alignment.
Yeah.
That's genius activity.
Yeah.
The Dogon Tribe. There were some astrologists, or there were some astrologists. They went and they talked to the Dogon Tribe, and I'm not sure if the researchers specifically identified as astrologists or whatever title, but there were these white researchers that went. They talked to the Dogon Tribe, and part of the Dogon Tribe's story is basically that these large beings came to them from like essentially outer space. I'm not sure how they translate it, but essentially it's like these large beings came from them from outer space, and they gave them information on these different stars and different planets. And the researchers, they couldn't confirm whether or not it was true in the sense of the position of the stars that this group was talking about and the planets that this group was talking about. Relatively recently, with new technology, they were able to find out that, okay, what they were saying was accurate. So that's part of that tribe's foundation story where they're saying, like, yeah,
how they came from the stars.
Right. They're saying we have this information because essentially like it came from something extraterrestrial, which is crazy to believe in the sense it's hard to believe, but regardless of however the information was gained, they had the information.
That's
this
right.
is supposed to be a primitive tribe. So, but when you're always looking from the perspective of white men, it's always going to come off as primitive because there's that superiority complex thinking that the whole entire world is figured out. When you walk into a room thinking you know everything, you can't even fully see how complex the situation is. So, yeah.
Man, that's amazing. Justin, and speaking on that same point, I even thought about this. I've been to school, you've been to college as well. So many times that we're taught things that we know aren't even historical facts, but it's just this white supremacist dogma that's just pushed down. And even we don't even realize how much history that we do have. So for all of the people that's tuning in right now that's currently in college, and if they have to take a history class, all of that, how do they navigate in those spaces when they know that when they're taught that Socrates, that he's the father of this, or this person is the father of that, and they know that it's lies, but you still got to get a good grade in that class. So how do they navigate inside of those spaces?
I mean, it's two ways. It's two ways to go about it. You know, during those classes, you can speak up. Like my homeboy, he doesn't really study much in the sense of like Black history and all those things. But he called me one day. He was very frustrated about a class because his teacher was saying something along the lines of like the Black Panther Party and Malcolm X were violent, and essentially like they were violent and they were these negative groups, and Malcolm X was this negative person.
Wow.
And you know, he was frustrated because he didn't speak up or say anything in that moment, but it really rubbed him the wrong way, and partially because he didn't really know the history that far in depth to want to go and challenge the professor on that level. He didn't feel comfortable doing that. But in those types of settings, I would say it's important to speak up in those settings because he was at a predominantly white university. So now you have this teacher who just dropped this information inside of this auditorium of all these white people who are going to be your future CEOs. They're going to be your future managers. They're going to be your future future landlords. That room is most likely to be those people. And so the book, what is the name of that book? It's I can't think of the name of it, but the quote says the lynching begins in the classroom. And it really does. The lynching begins in the classroom because when you teach someone that a group of people have no value and they haven't contributed anything but destruction, then why should they not be hung? Why should they not? Why should they remain on your planet? So, yeah, it's important to speak up during those moments because it has a huge impact in ways that you can't even see multiple years down the line. At the same time, on that note, there are some times where you just got to do what you got to do in order to get through. Like everything is political. For example, I had a course where it's some sociology course, and I wrote an essay about basically I wrote an essay speaking on that there's not a war on black men, there's a war on black masculinity.
That's deep. That's deep.
And because when you think about what masculinity means in the Eurocentric sense, it's about domination and power.
Right.
And if you even look at how a lot of masculine women are treated, a lot of times they receive similar treatment to how masculine men are treated. So it's not so much a direct war on black men per se. That's black power. That's black domination. So that's what the war is on. So I write an essay on that, and I'm in the class, and this professor, she's challenging my essay, like, because we speak about the essays and things, but she's challenging my essay. One, not understanding what I'm saying, but two, thinking that I'm coming from a perspective of not being informed. So I'm discussing what my point is, and her question is like, yeah, but do you know that sex and gender are different? You know that masculinity isn't necessarily assigned to male or female. And I'm sitting there like, I know this very well, and I know what I'm saying. Right. I meant to say what I said. And so you're going back and forth. Yeah. But in that situation, she was thinking that I didn't know what I was talking about, or that my philosophy wasn't grounded in something that was of logic. That it was just like me speaking reckless. Yeah. And inside of academia, especially when it comes to like college campuses, there is, even though they talk about like how liberal the thinking is, and how free and how stuff is supposed to flow, and everybody's supposed to have their own view and perspective. There is a kind of a understood system of like what's acceptable to believe and what's not acceptable to believe. That's right. What falls into the realm of the liberal thinking that is deemed to be acceptable. So, in that situation, that lady was grading my papers, and she was a tough grader. So, like I had to like kind of maneuver that. I had to write different because I needed to go past that course in order to move forward. And so you gotta evaluate it. It's even Nip says it's a marathon. Yeah. So you out here, you just worried about a quick sprint, and you thinking that's the only thing, but you gotta think long term. So it's like, all right, you know what? I'll water down my essay so I can get done with this course, because I got a whole entire bigger vision for what I need to do. And so you got to balance it and see what's actually worth it. I mean, what good? Basically, it's like this: what good is being Huey P. Newton inside of your classroom if that stops you from being able to be Huey P. Newton in real life? So you got to know how to maneuver the situations.
That's a good point, man. That's a good point. Justin, one of the last two questions, man. When you were on Real World, I enjoyed that. You were amazing. Earlier, while we were talking, you were talking about being unapologetic, being yourself. How did you maintain that same energy and that same confidence in that environment?
Oh, man, I understood that, man, honestly, going on that show, it was a sacrifice for me. Yeah, it was really a sacrifice. I didn't want to do it. Honestly, I swear on everything. I didn't want to do it, because from my view, it was a pretty jail cell in my view. But from my view, you know what I'm saying. But that's because I'm alert, I'm conscious, I'm aware, and I understood that I was coming in with a mission, and I understood that as black males, we only get so much representation on mainstream, that it was important for me to be a positive figure and provide positive representation on that. And so that whole entire time, that was just my mission was just that, to be able to provide that positive, one of those positive figures inside of the space of an interesting form of media, but to be that. And so every single morning, basically before I went to sleep every night, and every single morning before I got out of bed, I would always meditate. And I would meditate on like what my goals are, meditate on who I am, meditate on what I'm here for, meditate on what I need to do. And so that would keep me grounded, even in the midst of chaos. Mentally, I was grounded on, okay, I can't get caught up in this because I'm here for this. I ain't come here for this. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So that's just the way I stayed grounded. The whole entire time that I was on, I didn't drink. I was in a sober state the whole entire time. But that just comes with knowing you have a certain responsibility. Because for myself, if for me to know about Black media, I have a degree in advertising with a minor in marketing as well. So I have that in my undergrad, and then grad school. I need to finish up the thesis, but that's African American studies. So with the combination of those, you know how media operates, and you know, especially like we've done research on how Black people are shown in media. So for me to be informed in that way and to go into a situation and act completely reckless, you know what I'm saying? That would just be extremely irresponsible on my behalf. And so I knew what the stakes were, and I knew I was recorded 24/7, and so I understood that I'm not gonna go on mainstream television, and you're not gonna see me sloppy drunk as a Black man. I'm not gonna do that to my community like that. You know what I'm saying? You're not gonna see no clip of me going to the club and getting twerked on by 30 white women, because I'm not gonna do my community like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I just kept that in mind. I really felt like I was in my mind it was really making a sacrifice for the larger thing. And that's when it kind of goes back to one of the points we were talking about in the beginning of this conversation, as far as we talk about like life and people's fear of leaving. You know, we all have different roles that we need to play. Sometimes different things that we need to contribute. And so I work to contribute, and as much as I can, like that'll be part of my legacy for the rest of my life, but it'll be a part of my legacy once I'm long gone. And so when you're thinking from that perspective of, look, my grandkids will be able to come back and see this content. I'm not gonna be on here being reckless, because this is bigger than me. This is bigger than this current moment. And so that's how I just operated during that time period, and it helped me to be grounded and, you know, just think before reacting. And so there's a difference between reacting and responding. A reaction is just something happens and then you just whatever. You didn't think about it. There was no in between. But a response is when something happens, you analyze it and then you take action. And so I was responding instead of reacting.
I love that, man. I love that. Justin, before we go, twofold question, man. How do we apply train energy during this time? And also, what is next for Justin Blu as a brand?
All right, so as far as train energy is this. When you ever see a train, when it's coming, it's coming. Even the person driving the train can't stop it as long as the train is on track. You know, you can slow it down, but you can't just hit the brakes and stop the same way you could a car. Whatever's in the track of a train is going to have to move out the way, or it's getting ran over. And that's the same thing applies to us in life, is as long as we're on track, nothing can stop us but ourselves. So with this whole entire situation going on, honestly, it's just it sped up something that was already occurring. And we're in the digital age, and that's already here. It just sped it up. So you're going to need to adapt. The people who are going to win in the future are the ones who master technology, master social media, master the internet. Those are the people who are going to win going forward. And if you haven't noticed, the signs are all around you. Blockbuster ain't here no more. Why? Because Netflix came in. They mastered the internet. You have Victoria's Secrets. They've been struggling. They're on the verge of shutting down. Why? Because you have all these lingerie stores online who their overhead is a lot lower, and they're able to get in contact with their audience a lot easier, their demographic a lot easier. Same like Fashion Nova. Fashion Nova doesn't even have any stores, but they're killing the game. No brick and mortar. They've mastered the internet. They've mastered social media. They've mastered technology, and that's, you know, Corona or not, that's what a road is already. But it's especially where it's going. So it's folks that can't go cock into their job right now that are in panic mode. and they stressed out. And I definitely understand. I sympathize with that. But there's also folks who are seeing this moment, and it's a beautiful time for them. Yes. It's folks that have mastered the internet, and they see the opportunity in it, and they understand that their business might actually be far better right now than it would have been under any other scenario. But it just comes with adaptation. Understand how to adapt. Basically it's like this. You're never fucked. One more time. You're never fucked. You just have to adapt. That's it. Like if you were and I gave this example a couple of days ago. Say you were a mechanic and you were working at your auto mechanic shop, and then coronavirus hit. You can't work there no more. Okay. You're not fucked. You just need to adapt. So you can literally place Facebook ads and say, doing mobile oil change. Leave your keys in the front seat. I'll go in there. I'll take the keys. I'll change the oil right there in your driveway. Go about my business. You stayed in the house. We never had hand-to-hand contact. Business was exchanged. And you might have more business doing that than you had ever had working at the auto mechanic shop. But it's just a matter of adapting. I know this one girl. She's a dance instructor. She's used to traveling all around, and she's used to traveling all around and having these different dance classes in the different states. But she can't do that right now. So what is she gonna say? She's gonna say, okay, well, I guess I'm just gonna starve. Yeah. No, she has to adapt. And so what she's been doing is she's been holding different dance classes online, and she's been getting her bread that way. And she's probably I don't know what income is, but it's actually an opportunity for her to make more money doing it that way than when she was traveling. Because one, people are at home, and then two, unlike a limited space in a specific location, there's no cap on who can come in and who can come in at what time. And so there's so much opportunity here. It's just that folks aren't realizing that it's there, and in every single situation in life, and this applies to train energy as well. Every single situation in life, you need to say, how can I make this situation work for my own good? How can I take this situation and make it the best possible? And like, it seems like that should be a simple mindset or a quick mindset or easy mindset to have, but it's astonishing of how many people don't have that mindset. When my shit hits the fan, when shit hits the fan for me, the first thing I say to myself is, how can I take this situation and how can I flip it into something that's for my greater good? And I want you to get to your second question about just to connect what I'm saying.
No, hey, keep going, bro.
All right, so to connect what I'm saying. Every single time my shit hits the fan, the first question I say is, how can I take this situation and use it for my greater good? So about a year and some change ago, my car got broken into. And so I'm trying to get some food out of the restaurant. A dude sees my keychain, say, hey bro, you got the so-and-so car out there in the parking lot? I'm like, yeah, what's good? He's like, yeah, I think it might have got broken into. Damn, I didn't think I got my food. So I go out there, my windows busted out. They snatched my book bag. My book bag had my laptop in it, and it also had my external hard drive. So on a side note, don't leave your laptop and your external hard drive in the same bag. I learned that lesson the hard way. So I lost everything. Like, I really lost all of that information. Like, my backup was taken. And so in that moment, I could have panicked. I could have freaked out. But I said to myself, all right, well, what can I do right now to make the most of this situation? So I pull out my cell phone and I document what happens, because I want to bring people on the journey with me. So I document what happens and just let everybody know. It's like, this unfortunate situation. This occurred. All this stuff was taken. But life goes on. We're going to keep making progress. Okay? Post up. People hop in my comment section. They're saying, best of luck, brother. Much respect. We appreciate you. Somebody's like, well, what's your Cash App? I want to just help out a little bit. Drop my Cash App. Okay. So then my Cash App starts circulating. I go to sleep. I wake up the next morning. By the end of that day, by the end of that next day, I had enough money to not only fix my car door, but I had enough money to buy a laptop that was 2 or 3 times better than the one that got stolen. On top of money that was left over. It got to the point where I had to say, hey, I'm good. Don't send anymore. Don't send anymore. Hey, but all of that came as a result of me saying in that moment, all right, I could either panic or I could either think about what could I do at this current time to possibly help make the situation better? How can
You
I
gotta
take
find a solution.
how can I take this negative situation and flip it into something positive? And that's the mindset that you have to have in life. Is just that no matter what happens, is how can I take this negative situation, flip it into something positive? Okay, all right, I got laid off from work during coronavirus. Dang, this is horrible. But you had business ideas for all these years. You know, there was so much, you had all these ideas for all these years. Now you finally have a reason to sit down and say, you know what, let me go ahead and focus on this. Because, you know, I can't fully apply for another job right now. And a lot of times, depending on what your field is. So that's an opportunity for you to work on that job that you've been wanting to, or that opportunity, that idea, whatever it's been. Like I said, the internet. There's so much that you can learn. There's so many ways to make money. It's just like you got to just say, what can I do? So I think we're coming up on that hour, so they might kick you out soon.
Yeah. Hey, Justin, man, thank you again. That was awesome. This interview, y'all, it will be live on YouTube probably by the end of the night. So, Justin, I'll make sure to send that with you, man.
All right.
Thank you so much. You guys make sure to keep supporting Justin and his movements, and we cannot wait for your project to come out, man. So thank you.
SOS, Speak to Our Sons mentorship series on the way, and I'll be dropping it mid this month. So just pay attention. It's so many different audio lessons that are in there. And it's going to empower Black males, but also the lessons are really something that is going to empower everybody as a whole. So, yeah.
That's love.
Thank
That's
y'all.
love.
Much love.
Hey, you be good, Justin. Appreciate you, King.
You too, man. Much